I bet. WWE wrestlers that couldn't even wrestle.
WWE wrestlers that just couldn't wrestle. Number 10, Eva Marie. When Eva
Never
Marie
heard.
debuted in WWE TV in 2013, they still
Hold
had
on, I
a
think the
habit of
slider's still up, chat. We gotta turn the sliders back down. Oh no, they regular.
pushing female
We chilling,
talent
we
that
chilling.
weren't the best in the ring. Now, in WWE's defense, Marie had some major heat from fans, yet when she wrestled, she completely fell apart. Marie was far too green for the main roster, and she was exposed when the bell rang. She even spent time in NXT, and this did little to offer any kind of significant improvement.
She
Marie
was an
even
OG
brought back
NXT.
for a second
That
run
was a
during the
minute ago.
COVID-19 era, and this was a baffling move, as Marie offered zero signs of improvement, which meant that the second run was ultimately a complete waste of everyone's time. Number 9, the Great Khali.
The Great Khali?
Arriving in WWE
What?
in 2006,
Khali
the
win
Great
that?
Khali was positioned as the new arch rival for The Undertaker. Khali looked incredible as he stood over 7 feet tall, and WWE offered a great presentation for Khali that made him look like a megastar. The issue was that Khali simply couldn't wrestle. He was put in the WWE ring with elite names such as The Undertaker, Rey Mysterio, and Batista, yet these legendary talents couldn't get a passable match out of Khali. Khali had a ton of limitations as a performer, yet this didn't stop WWE from persisting with the Khali push, and in 2007, he would become world champion. This was a world title reign that not a single fan was pushing for, and this reign greatly exposed Khali, as it was a sign that Vince McMahon was greatly out of touch in terms
Khali
of
a
what the
W.
overall fan base wanted. It took some time,
I
but
fuck with
WWE
Khali. I don't know what
eventually
bro
moved
talking about.
Khali down the card, and he would spend the rest of his WWE career in a more comedic
That
roles.
Big
Whilst
Show
his in-ring ability
Khali
was
and
always a
Undertaker
problem,
Khali.
he did
and
manage
Rey
to get
Mysterio, that
somewhat
shit was
over
it.
as a babyface in the later stages of his career, and his popularity and influence on the Indian market for WWE can never be denied. Number 8, Giant Gonzalez.
Who is this?
Unfortunately, WWE have time and time again brought in lousy wrestlers to work with The Undertaker.
What the
and in the
fuck?
90s, they brought in a wrestler known as Giant Gonzalez.
Who was
Despite having a
Cud?
ton of size, Gonzalez was one of the worst performers The Undertaker's ever shared the
What
ring
the
with.
fuck,
And the
Chet?
matches in 93
What is
were
bro
truly
on?
atrocious, despite the dead man doing his very best to try and deliver a passable match. Speaking to Sam Roberts, The Undertaker spoke honestly about Gonzalez as an in-ring performer, and the dead man stated that the program with him took years off his career. That whole thing took years off my career. I would be in much better shape now if I could have skipped that one program. As physically demanding as it was, it
say
was
furry
twice
ass
as much
dude?
the mental strain because you have Brian Pillman going out and having
The
these
fuck is
great
bro on?
matches. Obviously, you want to be mentioned in the same breath as those guys, and it was just not possible. Number 7, the Boogeyman. The Boogeyman
Boogeyman?
was thrown onto the main roster with very little training.
Look, bro, I can't. I wasn't watching like this era, so I don't really know a lot about bro. But I definitely heard about him.
And he was given a major push almost immediately.
I heard about him though,
The
for
Boogeyman
sure.
character was unique and it was over with the audience. However, like all supernatural characters, the character had to eventually wrestle. And this is where the mystique was shattered. The Boogeyman wasn't at the level WWE or the fans wanted, and his matches with the likes of Booker T and JBL were laughable at best. The Boogeyman was eventually moved dramatically down the card, and for good reason, as it was impossible for WWE to book him in high-profile feuds if they knew that the end matchup wasn't going to deliver. Having a riveting and engaging gimmick is vastly important in wrestling, yet the in-ring work has to be up to par. Names such as Taker, Mick Foley, and Bray Wyatt were a testament to this. Their characters and gimmicks were legendary, yet these men had the ability to deliver a classic in-ring product with anyone on their respective roster. Number 6, Nathan Jones.
Never
It's
heard.
often been the case in WWE, they see a wrestler and they believe that they will be the biggest star on the planet. This opinion is usually formed thanks to their appearance and nothing more. This was
He
often
from
the
Cali?
case during the old era of WWE, where Vince McMahon preferred his top guys to look a certain way. In 2003, although wrestlers such as Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar, Rob Van Dam, and Booker T were all amongst the most pushed wrestlers in the company, this mindset still firmly existed as WWE debuted Nathan Jones. Jones had an intimidating look, and although he was insanely green, they debuted him in a program with The Undertaker. This was going to lead to the two teaming at WrestleMania 19. Shortly before WrestleMania 19, they realized that Jones just wasn't ready for such a prestigious position, and his WrestleMania plan
I say
would
with the
flop.
Undertaker?
Jones would re-debut in the company in late 2003, this time as a menacing heel. This new heel run led to more ring time, and although
Is
he
that
was
right
wrestling
back?
names such as Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit, Jones was simply not cut out for the big leagues. Number 5, King Mabel. In an attempt to create a new star,
Who the
WWE
fuck is
decided to
Cud?
push Mabel in 95. He would win the illustrious King of the Ring and would go on to challenge Diesel at that year's SummerSlam event. King Mabel
that
was
Dave Blunt's
subpar in
my
the ring,
nigga?
and when he wrestled Diesel at the SummerSlam event, it highlighted all of his flaws, and his in-ring performance was so bad and reckless that Vince McMahon almost fired him on the
Bro,
spot.
I can't put down
Mabel
the
would have
cup. He
numerous
tripping.
runs in the company, including runs as Viscera and Big
Holy
Daddy
shit, this
V,
dude
yet
big
he
as
was
hell.
often criticized during these runs as his in-ring output was consistently failing to hit the mark. Number 4, Heidenreich. Heidenreich was
Heidenreich.
just another larger-than-life
Never heard of him.
superstar that WWE paired with The Undertaker, and just like other names on this list, Heidenreich's in-ring work was terrible. The Heidenreich character was an interesting one, as he would often come down to the ring wearing a straitjacket, and his alliance with Paul Heyman should have been a recipe for success. Unfortunately, when the bell rang, he often looked nervous and he failed to have a good match.
He one of
He had
those.
somewhat more success as a babyface as part of his new version of the Legion of Doom, yet even still, fans still called out his in-ring work, which showed little to no improvement. Number 3, Vladimir Kozlov. Following WrestleMania 24, WWE debuted Vladimir Kozlov.
Hey, stop saying that first name,
From his
Brody.
first match, it was evident
He
that
didn't say what
WWE
y'all
saw
thought he
dollar
just said.
signs. Before fans knew it, Kozlov was pushed into the main event scene, and this saw Kozlov enter into a feud with Triple H and Jeff Hardy. This push was completely unwarranted, as the fans weren't reacting with the excitement when Kozlov's music hit, and most of his matches were lifeless squash matches. With Kozlov entering into a feud with top names, this meant that he was now wrestling longer matches, and this was a massive detriment to Kozlov, and he looked completely out of place. Negative reactions to his in-ring work aside, they continued with his push, and he would even defeat The Undertaker clean on SmackDown. Over time, Vince McMahon realized that Kozlov wasn't going to be the menacing top star he wanted, and he eventually admitted defeat and decided instead to place Kozlov in a comedic tag team with Santino Marella. Number 2, Ahmed Johnson. The WWE had every reason to push
Never
Ahmed
heard of
Johnson,
him
as his
either, ain't gonna lie.
WWE arrival came at the time when new stars were badly needed, and the more WWE pushed Johnson, the bigger reactions toward him seemed to get. Sadly, Johnson's in-ring work was at a questionable level, and he was
How many steroids you think this nigga off in this picture, chat? Like some estrogen or some shit. Like folks buff as fuck. Tell me he juiced as hell. No
known for
Diddy.
being incredibly
Spam the
reckless
no
in the
Diddy. You
ring.
gotta say no
It's often
Diddy
said
after
that it's
that.
vital that wrestlers trust each other in the ring, yet numerous wrestlers had issues with just how stiff and brutal Johnson could be within the squared circle. WWE legend Ted DiBiase summed up these issues with Johnson on his podcast by stating, "Big guy, great appearance. Obviously Vince McMahon was going to push him because he was the size he was. It looked like he did, but you know, he wasn't a great worker. In other words, he had to have somebody on the
What
other
is one
side
more?
of the ring who could lead him." Johnson eventually exited the company in '98, and there were numerous reasons as to why the departure happened, yet ultimately Johnson found himself in WCW, where he unfortunately fell into a pit of obscurity. And number 1, The Ultimate Warrior. It always leads to a ton of discourse whenever wrestling.
What? The Ultimate Warrior? Is he serious? This nigga was tough.
And number 1, The Ultimate Warrior. It always leads to a ton of discourse whenever a wrestling fan claims that The Ultimate Warrior couldn't wrestle. On the surface, Warrior couldn't wrestle. He was extremely
that's rage
limited as a
bait. That's
performer,
rage bait.
and numerous
Okay.
wrestlers have called Warrior out for his limitations. However, limitations aside, Warrior still had the ability to tell an excellent, captivating story with his matches.
Bro, it's like one
Matches
of the
against
best
the likes of
ones. Am I
Hulk Hogan and
tripping?
Macho Man Randy Savage were tremendous. And yes, this was in part thanks to the abilities and aura of the two aforementioned names, yet Warrior still did his part in the respective matchups. Current WWE star Gunther summed up Warrior's abilities the best when he appeared on the bump. He's a showman. He's not an athlete, not a professional wrestler. He's a showman. But there you have it, folks. 10 WWE wrestlers.
I don't agree with that. That nigga was tough. They had that nigga one of the best like overalls in WWE for almost all the WWEs for a reason. That nigga used to be Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage. He used to be fucking them niggas up, man.